About the personal support worker competencies in palliative care. Marg, McKee, and Jackie McDonald are going to make this presentation. I want to make a couple of announcements though. There's been a lot of questions about getting a copy of all of our slides. They've all been provided to the conference organizers, and I'm in the process of finding out how they will get all, copies of all those slides to you. I think it'll probably be via a website, so I'll be able to give you the information about how to log on to a website, and you'll be able to either print everything that you've seen here today, or download it, or do whatever you want. So, of course, it's always a good idea to take notes, but just rest assured that all of the presentations that are here today, you'll be able to have. As the day progresses and we talk more and more about our resources, I just want to let you know, you see this big fat thing here? These are our resources. They weigh 10 pounds. Now, all of these are available on our website, and you've got a flyer on your table. It's the Quality Palliative Care and Long-Term Care Alliance. They're all free. They're all downloadable. However, if you want to purchase for your home a printed copy, we have to sell the printed copies just for the cost of the printing. Like, we're not selling the information, but it's a research project, so we don't have money in our budget to actually print them. So we had order forms, and I believe each of your table has an order form. And if you run out of an order form, just give me your information, and we'll get back to you about how to order one of these hard copy. But rest assured that these are all available online, free of charge, everything that we talk about, and you'll get the slides. And there's a lovely lady out there by the name of Jocelyn Hunt, and she's got a pain and dementia toolkit under development, and she just wanted me to remind you to visit her booth, and that they have a website that you can also go on. That's www.akeontario.org. Go and talk to her, but that's the Alzheimer's Knowledge Exchange Ontario, and there's more and more resources being developed to help you specifically in long-term care. So Ron, I'm going to give this mic to Dr. McKee, okay?
Appreciate it and enjoy it. Thank you.
Let me piggyback on that energy. The one thing I've noticed in this room this morning is the unbelievable level of engagement and energy and the desire to talk. So let me, now, just a little bit, because we're going to get you talking a lot more later, but just a little bit for now to introduce what I want to tantalize you with next. Do you think, now this could kickstart a whole day of conversation, so I am going to, do you think the registered staff in your home understand and appreciate the full scope of what you do? Now, okay. So look at the tsunami of hands in the room. Okay, let me ask a second question. What is the one thing, because there will be more time for you to address that, but just for now, what is the one thing, and shout them out in 3 words or less, what is the one thing you wish they understood better?
We know the resident more than they.
Thank you.
They're listening. They're listening to what we tell you what is happening to us.
Acknowledgement, you want acknowledgement of your opinion. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to say it from a registered staff point of view. I do recognize my colleagues on PSWs, and they are the front line, and they are a valued person in our team.
Yes.
But
So today, our job is to recognize the PSWs. This, you know what's interesting about this is whenever I do classes or I do any teaching on women's issues, and there's a man in the class, the man always says, "How come you're not talking about men? You're leaving men out." Today, we really are focusing on the PSWs.
Yes, thank you.
So, and I think you do want that to be heard. She gives credit to all of you. Yes. Wait, now let me bring you back. 'Cause really, my question is very specific. What is the one thing you would want the registered staff to understand the most about what you do?
No, I have one comment. In my home, we have a very good nurses. They listen. But as I said this, mind you, it's not all of them. But we have a very outstanding nurses. They listen to you. They follow what you say, and they even ask.
They ask your opinion.
They ask you to go back and find out details. In the process of doing that, they give you opportunity for you to learn and share. However, there is time management. It's short, and sometimes the communication is not the most efficient.
Okay. Well, I'll take two more. One here.
Yes, to all the PSWs in here.
So you're going to have to really shout out.
All the work that they are doing. And at times I look at them and see all that they are doing, and thank you. I must say, an applaud goes out to all of you for all the work that you have done. And the communication might not be so great at times, but I want you to know you are doing a good job, and nobody else can do it as good as you, and you need to give yourself a round of applause.
One last, there was a hand in the back. Do you still want to say something? Yes.
Okay, I'm a nurse. Certainly not new to nursing, and so I've had a short amount of experience, and I've got 2 comments. One of the things I am working on is transition of care between shifts. It seems like when that next shift comes on, everything stops.
Yes.
So we need to do a better job during the shift. And I know there isn't time, but if it's important enough, I'll stop yelling now.
If it's important enough, find a way to signal to the nurse to come to you. And I'm thinking about asking my director of care if I can just have one of those little ding bells, like for service in the bank or something, just so that when everybody hears it, they just pop their head out the door of the resident's room, so I can come down to them or they can come to me. But that's another opportunity for sharing. I've also started having huddles with the PSWs, any staff that's on when somebody does pass, and it's just like when you have a fall huddle, you just come together just for a minute or two, everybody shares their little bit of experience, talk about that resident, and okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's time to go back to work. But I think that little gathering has been supportive. The other thing I can't abide by is when the PSWs tell me at the end of the shift that Mrs. Smith is struggling. there isn't a lot I can do. I can transition it to the next staff, but that's my responsibility. And often at the
Okay.
end of the shift is when I find.
I'm gonna cut this off because I want to bring the conversation back. What I really want us to have a look at is what are the core things that PSWs do that you need the world to know you do, that you need your registered staff to know that you do. What is the scope of your practice? It's interesting because when I'm a psychologist and I was a nurse. And I'm the director of a school of social work. I feel like I am my own interdisciplinary team. And one of the things I am most passionate about is trying to understand the scope of practice of people whose practice has not typically been considered. And volunteers belong in that category, but so do PSWs. Almost every profession has a scope of practice, standards of practice, roles and responsibilities, and PSWs have been largely left out of that conversation. So what I want to show you next is the set of competencies that we developed as a part of Mary Lou's big project in palliative care. You've got a brochure on your tables that has that goes through them, but I'm going to put them up in a slideshow as well, and I'm going to invite your discussion about this as we go. I'm anxious to hear, and I think I already get a bit of a sense of this, is whether you see yourselves, whether you see your work in the competencies that I'm about to put up. I'm hoping I'm going to hear throughout the room a yes, I do that. Yes, I do that. And at the end, Jackie's going to take over leading a discussion of this some more. But let me put them up first. Is that okay? Can we move to that next? How do I make this move along? So, given that your role is so crucial in long-term care, it is really important that we understand what is it you do. Can you communicate to other staff what it is that you do? What is the scope of your role? Often I find PSWs don't feel empowered, particularly new PSWs coming into long-term care, right? Don't feel empowered, and there's limited training for you related to palliative care. I really believe that understanding your role and scope of practice is absolutely essential for, you said at the back, those shift changes, or for you to pass forward the information you've gathered, to talk to other members of your team. So the competencies I'm about to show you describe what PSWs actually are doing in their day-to-day work in long-term care. And they really point overwhelmingly to the complexity of what you do and the need for education to do it well. And they really do show how the PSW role is distinct from other roles in long-term care, where there are areas of overlap as well. And I'll address that a little bit later. So there are 10 broad areas of competency that I'm going to, some of them I'm going to just whiz through, others I'm going to spend a little bit more time on. Care of the resident, care of the family, care at the end of life, communication, time management, teamwork, self-care, professional development, ethical issues, and advocacy. Those are the areas, the broad areas that you are competent in order to work in long-term care. So let's look at the first one first. And it is all about care of the resident. And the first thing I want to say is, notice how the very first competency, and we were very careful. I worked with a group of PSWs to develop these, by the way. So this is their work. I just am the mouthpiece for now. So the very first competency, and they insisted on it being first, is the physical personal care that is so much the hallmark of the care that PSWs provide. But notice this. Well, we're going to have a look at it, because this physical care, look, I want you to just look at the black on the slide, how complex this care really is. So the PSW provides assistance with all personal care needs. We all take that for granted. But then look down, how much more complex it is in long-term care, because there are special care needs of elderly people who have serious chronic illness, including dementia, increasing frailty, and declining capacity. And you have to be able to understand the residents' needs, continuously adapt the assistance you provide to maintain maximum independence and autonomy, while also taking care of the needs they can no longer do themselves to maintain their well-being and quality of life. Always. And it's interesting. providing dignity and quality of life is not an add-on. It is not something extra you do. It is all conveyed in the way you deliver the personal care. It is all part and parcel of the personal care you give. The way you touch, the way you envelop the person with your presence, the way you attend to them as you're bathing them, as you're taking them to the bathroom. It is the way you see them, the way you recognize them as a whole person. That is what you do while you're giving physical care. So when I talked to the PSWs, they were so clear about this. It's not an add-on. You don't have to, it doesn't take an extra half hour to provide quality and dignity of life. It is how you approach the resident as you're giving the care. So again, look at how complex it gets. Maximizing the residents' participation in their own care when they refuse assistance, trying to pursue a balance between respecting their right to choose and still maintaining a certain standard of care. And when they're no longer able to contribute to their care, providing the highest possible standard of care. And then 1B, and some of you, if you follow along in the brochure on your table, I want you to notice how the very next competency is a really detailed description of building a relationship with the resident. Again, the PSWs were clear with me about this. This is not something extra they do. It's right up there with providing physical care. Because they said to me over and over again, you can't provide this kind of physical care in long-term care without there being a strong relationship with this resident. Those go hand in hand. They're like flip sides of the same coin. You give physical care, you're only able to do it in the context of a relationship with this person. So look at the detail here. Again, this is the voice of the PSWs I've spoken to, that the PSW knows how important the bond of trust is between them in maintaining high quality personal care. They get to know each resident as an individual with unique needs, preferences, cultural and religious customs, and you adapt your care accordingly. You provide strong, empathic relationships. You use ingenuity, and I heard the PSWs talk about this over and over, patience, humor, compromise, to get the care done. You anticipate your residents' moods, their responsive behaviors, especially people with dementia, and always looking for ways to anticipate and prevent. Taking precautions to protect yourself and others, always trying to protect the dignity of the resident and the bond you have with them, right? So that's still all part of providing physical care, building the relationship. Here's another one. While you're giving physical care, always watching, observing, right? Continuously observing, moment to moment, day to day, changes in your residents' physical, emotional, and psychological functioning, promptly recognizing when there's a change in functioning, and then reporting these. And now you'll see there's a competency later called communication, but reporting these to nursing staff and documenting your observations. So always, while you're giving physical care, observing all of these things. This is starting to look pretty complex, yeah? Is it matching what you know you do so far? Now, I'm still talking about physical care. Here's it, part and parcel especially towards the end of life, is specialized care, right? So in accordance with whatever your established protocols are and under the supervision and alongside nursing staff, you're doing things like catheter care, colostomy care, skin and wound care, baths, creams, ointments, collecting specimens, recording input and output. Now, I know how the nurses in the room start to think that this overlaps with their role, but you know that the PSWs are doing this. Yes. Yes. I'm still talking about physical care here, by the way. This is still just the first competency, because in order to provide physical care, you are doing it within a home environment. This is not physical care in a hospital. This is physical care in a home. And it is because it's a home, it is that context that shapes the way you provide care. This isn't a medical setting. This is a home, yes? So there are all these things that come, all these competencies that come with the creation of a home-like setting in long-term care. Understanding the disorientation that comes with moving in. Encouraging family members to bring in personal items. Understanding the importance of physical intimacy and sexual expression in some residents' lives, and respecting their right to privacy. So that was the first competency. You recognize your work? Okay. Here's the second one. And now not all of them are this lengthy. The first couple are the ones that are the beefiest. But here's the next one, care of the family. And again, I want you to notice how important the building of relationships with the family is to PSWs, the PSWs I've spoken to, and how complex the communication skills are that are required. I know I've said this to a variety of audiences, and Mary Lou will get tired of hearing me say this, but I teach counseling skills classes to social work students at the undergrad level and to master's level social work students. And I can tell you that my students, even at the graduate level, would run screaming from the room if they had to engage in the kinds of complex conversations you have with your residents and their family members, conversations that are often emotionally charged and difficult because of what's going on in long-term care, right? It's very complex. So let's have a care of the family. So the PSWs I've talked to have told me that you engage with the family members, you try to understand the level of involvement in care that they wish to have. You're sensitive to the fact that different families want different levels of care or kinds of involvement, and you empower family members to take part as they are able. Not only that, you assess the need to guide or demonstrate, and often provide emotional support to family members who are caring for their loved one. And you monitor the quality of care they're providing to make sure it's up to your standard. You provide information about the process, stages of dying, so that the family members are prepared, because you are the one that the family member knows. And you're the one they ask, how is mom today? How is dad today? I've noticed a change. What do you make of that? Do you run screaming from the room and get a registered staff to come in and talk? Most of you, you've told me, you have that conversation. You also understand that family members may find visiting their loved one really emotionally challenging, and you've told me that there are often emotionally difficult conversations with family members in the hallway, in the doorway, because the family member sees you, they take out their frustration on you, do they not? Yes. And you have to skillfully manage that conversation and maintain the relationship with that family member, right? Yes. So particularly near the end of life, you anticipate the need for family members to have some physical and emotional nourishment, and you provide for that. And if desired by the family member, now this one I've heard some, I'm not sure we do that, but with the PSWs who I've interviewed, they do this. After the resident dies, they do stay in touch with the family member. They will send a card. They will attend a funeral if invited. In fact, some of the family members of the resident come back to the home to visit because this is now their family. Mm-hmm. So, care at the end of life, the next broad category. And look how complex this gets. The PSW acknowledges and accepts that death of their residents is natural and inevitable. You help the resident prepare for death in a way that's compatible with their values, their customs, their understandings. You explore and respond to the resident's cultural, religious, and spiritual practices. You try to help the resident find meaning and closure at this stage of life, to express their feelings, to do and say last things. You talk to the resident and the family as much or as little as they are willing and able about death and dying. You explore their wishes for the end of life. Do they want special music? Is there a person they want present when they die? Do they want their family present? Do they want special clothes? Do they want to be dressed in special clothes after they die? What do they want? And then you also have to prepare yourself And we're going to talk about that again this afternoon for losing your resident. And then all the things you do to provide comfort and safety and close connection at the end of life for your residents. You know, communicating regularly with nurses about the residents' changing needs, making sure the family is notified, involving them to the extent that they wish, providing an atmosphere of peace and safety and unconditional regard for your dying resident, to the extent that it's possible, providing companionship at the very end so there is someone present when your resident dies so that they don't die alone. Assembling the care team to say goodbye, to say and do last things together. And then all the total care, you know, observing the changes in the resident's level of pain and distress. Again, you are the ones who are so acutely attuned to the hour-by-hour, day-to-day changing needs of your residents, reporting this along to the registered staff, documenting, providing comfort through touch, presence, more frequent positioning. How intense the intensive the care becomes towards the end, right? How time-consuming. And doing everything with more tenderness, more care in those last days, more frequent care, especially for the skin and mouth, talking more softly to the resident, singing, reading, praying, if that's what you do. And then care of the resident after death as well. Think of the things you do then. Right? Closing the eyes, positioning the body, brushing the hair, cleansing the body, dressing the body, inviting staff to say goodbye, helping other residents to say goodbye, providing emotional support to the family, helping them let go and say goodbye. And then whatever rituals give you meaning as well, and that are compatible with the residents' wishes and the family's wishes. PSWs tell me they do all sorts of things like opening a window, lighting a candle, or whatever that helps you. Yeah? Now the next ones, and I'm going to turn it over to Jackie shortly. The next ones, actually I'm going to zoom through a little bit more. The next big one though is communication with members of the team. This ability to communicate what you know, what you're observing to other members of the team, because you are a team. Making effective use of all the available reporting and documenting mechanisms so that your residents' needs are promptly assessed and addressed. Communicating promptly about the changing health status of your resident. So communicating effectively with the resident and the family too. Also communicating during times of crisis and emotional turmoil. How many impromptu, difficult bedside conversations do you have with residents and their family members about death, about refusal of food, what to do to manage responsive behavior when a family disagrees or complains about care? All these things, these difficult conversations that you need to be so skillful at. Listening, understanding, and providing support and comfort even when residents and family members are mad at you. Here's a big one, because I've been told repeatedly, you have to do more and more with less and less all the time. So you have to be skilled at managing your time, be able to multitask, adapt, rearrange, and compromise in order to provide quality care. You have to be able to stay cool under pressure, under time constraints. Manage your own stress and anxiety about all that you have to do in a day. Maintain your own workload, but also be a team player and help other people with their workload. And then manage your stress level by talking and seeking assistance from others. We all have bad days. This leads to the next big area of competency, is the ability to work effectively as a member of an interdisciplinary team. And the interdisciplinary team in long-term care includes housekeeping, dietary, recreation, who am I leaving out? Life enrichment, volunteers, yes. So, being able to work as part of that whole team. Self-care, another really big one. Recognizing the importance, and we're going to talk more about this afternoon, of personal awareness and self-care and committing to some kind of plan to take care of yourself so you stay well, so you stay healthy. Being able to acknowledge the impact that this work has on you, how can it not? And again, we're going to talk more about this afternoon, the importance of having ways to debrief and to seek comfort for yourself, understanding the signs of compassion fatigue and taking steps to help yourself and others. I'm so excited to see so many of you here today because this is number 8 on the list of competencies, is willingness to seek professional development for your work. So that's what those competencies are about. And in addition, mentoring students, volunteers, and family members, mentoring new PSWs especially. Wouldn't you agree that new PSWs have no clue what they're walking into in long-term care? Isn't it true? You look at the attrition rates in long-term care, how many PSWs do not stick it out. They need mentoring from those of you who are more experienced. Another big area of competency is understanding the ethical and legal issues towards the end of life. And finally, PSWs tell me this so strongly, that your voice, advocating for the resident, especially at those times when they are unable to speak for themselves, is one of the most important things you do. If I could sum up, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jackie, I want to read you something I wrote to you. One of the comments I've heard when I've presented these competencies to groups where there are nurses and RPNs is that we've stretched the scope of practice of PSWs too far, and that the role, as I've described it, begins to overlap with the roles of nurses and RPNs. And that may be true. It may be true. But whenever I've presented these competencies to PSWs who actually work in long-term care, or the nurses who train PSWs who work in long-term care, there has been almost unanimous agreement that this is actually what PSWs do. Yes. Okay. You're giving very complex, physically and emotionally demanding palliative care to the most frail, most ill people, many of whom have severe dementia and require extremely subtle and skillful management. You are engaging in the most difficult, complex conversations with residents and family members about death and dying, conversations you often feel unprepared for, undereducated for, but cannot avoid because you're the ones at the bedside, and you're the ones who get asked by residents and family members. One of the things the PSWs I represent from this study would want me to say more clearly is how deeply you care about your residents. The PSWs I talked to spoke about their residents, how the resident becomes like a family member to them, how deeply they grieve for their residents when they die. PSWs told me how far beyond the call of duty they go in caring for their residents, bringing in special treats for them, special items of clothing, special food. They told me how they take pride in knowing that their residents feel cared for. Pride just knowing that they have cleaned someone up and made them comfortable. So it's this aspect of the work, it's the sense of emotional connection and reward, I think, that allows you to do this work that is so physically and emotionally demanding for you. It's because it is so emotionally rewarding, even though it is so demanding. I also learned from the PSWs I interviewed how hard it is to continue to care when it feels like the institution doesn't value the emotional labor and the time it takes to care properly for somebody. And long-term care is an institutional context that increasingly is rewarding fast and efficient, and you feel that this is undermining the careful, time-consuming work of bedside care and the careful attention to the emotional needs of your residents. So it's not surprising that it's one of the most frequent complaints I've heard from PSWs in the interviews with me, that the system is increasingly pressuring you to work faster, to find efficiencies, and always this comes at the expense of your residents. So I'm also not surprised when PSWs talk about the ones who quit and move on, the ones who simply can't take it anymore, can't take the physically demanding work, but it's not just that. It's more, what you can't take is the continuous assault on your emotions when your drive to care is thwarted by a system that rewards doing everything faster. There's no question that long-term care is a hospice setting like no other one. Everyone who is admitted into your care dies. We're going to look at this again this afternoon, and you may think that that makes long-term care a hospice setting just like any other, but actually it doesn't. A year in your care is long enough for these residents to really feel like your family members. And when you lose everyone in your care, it is like losing your favorite uncle, your favorite aunt, over and over and over again. Sadly, I find the emotional aspect of the work is often not discussed, or it's not acknowledged. And if it is discussed, you're often told, oh, you shouldn't get so attached. You should remain more disengaged. It'll just burn you out. Just get the bath done. Don't worry about caring. And I think that is horrible advice to PSWs, because the deep bond you have with your residents is actually the major humanizing force in long-term care, and it is what sustains you in your work. So there's no question that PSWs are exhausted from the work they do. I'm going to make one final point. The PSW at the bedside is often the one who's best situated to know the needs of a resident, and yet your voice is so regulated by layers of bureaucracy that it's sometimes hard for you to be heard. And when you aren't speaking up and when you're not being heard, your residents will suffer. So one of the benefits of doing this kind of competency work, and for you to champion this now, is when you can articulate your role, when you can articulate your pride in articulating your role, when you can write down and speak out loud what you actually do in your work. I expect more PSWs are going to catch that excitement. I expect we're going to have a more demanding PSW workforce in long-term care. I expect there's going to be a call for more education, better recognition, better working conditions, better living conditions for residents, and better palliative and end-of-life care for our residents. You will be the ones leading the revolution for better palliative care and long-term care. I'm going to turn this over to Jackie, who is going to
Hi guys. After listening to Marg, I don't know about you guys, but I feel wonderful. I feel so proud to be a PSW.
Yes. Do you want it louder? I'm gonna little.
Okay, better? Oh, yeah, I hear it. I have a few questions for my fellow PSWs. How comfortable are you at talking to a resident or a family member about death, about dying?
I think it depends on the culture and your upbringing, because we come from different parts of life and we approach death differently. So I think it depends on your beliefs, your morals, your culture.
And theirs, right? And theirs. It's that's why it's so important to know your resident. So important. You have to take that time and really get to know them. We did a lab, part of our education on dying, and we had a mannequin come to us and say, as we were supposedly looking after them, saying, am I dying? And we were all really shocked because we really did feel that we did it every day and we were comfortable with it. And when we stood there in this room, a controlled room, and having to answer that, we found that we really were uncomfortable with it. And so we were able to talk to each other and get a little bit more comfortable with how we talk to somebody about dying. And it is a very important thing to be able to be comfortable and to be able to talk to our residents and their family about death. So what do you do to take care of yourself when your resident dies? What do you do? You know, for us, we have, in 1 year, we had quite a few of our residents die. And it was really hard for us. It was really, really hard. And it's really important to understand that we do grieve. And we have to share with each other. What do you guys do? What do you do? Mary Lou's coming behind you.
Yes, I'm a quiet griever. And I've had residents that have grown to like and have been very close to. I've also had family members that I've lost in the same year that I lost a very loving resident. But I find I do not like, though I like for my co-workers, family, whatever, friends, to know that I'm going through this period, I'm the person who likes to grieve quietly. So for me, it's to pray and just be quiet.
Good, good. A lot of people have a lot of different ways of how they deal with the deaths of the residents.
Yes. At our nursing home, we have a department in the second floor that when you need spiritual help, grieving, debriefing, you go and see the department and they will walk through and help you with your grieving and the process and whatever.
Good, good. Just know that you have to do something, right? So, I'm sorry.
Hi, I'm really happy to be here learning about grieving with this palliative care. I don't think my home has any program for for grieving. To be honest with you, the home I work in is like, I don't feel they respect a person after they pass. Because I've had a resident that's passed today, and they're telling you by the end of the day, clean out their room because we're having a new admittance tomorrow. And it hurts me when a family member has to come in and I have to hand them their family member stuff in bags because my home didn't give them the opportunity to come and clear out the home. So I'm really happy to be here learning about this, and I'm sorry I had to say that about the home I work in. I do enjoy my job, but it is what it is.
So you know what this means, eh? You are going to be the PSW to make that change. Good for you. Good for you. You got a lot of people that will be behind you.
Well, in my home where I work, we have celebration of life. Have all the PSW that work on the floor, and we all go down and gather and talk whatever we know about that person, and come to a conclusion where we can grieve. Who want to sing, they can sing. Who want to talk about the resident, we all do that in our home where I come from.
Yes, it's very important to acknowledge that person. Very, very important. I have another question for you. How do you manage to keep going when you've cared for somebody and they've died? They've just died. You leave their room. This actually just happened to me not that long ago. And I walked out of their room, and right away, my 92-year-old little Italian lady come to me, yakking in Italian and telling me, where's my mom, where's my mom? And then I had another one that was going around, and she was grabbing things off the desk. And then you have another one that is a narcissist, and he's demanding this and that and from you because they were my residents. And it was really, really hard for me to just put everything aside after what I just went through with my resident dying and to deal with all this. So how do you do it? How do you deal with all this? And honest to God, they were all coming at me at the same time. How do you deal with it? Besides digging down really deep and understanding that they need your care too.
I'm not a PSW, but when we have someone pass away, my foot especially.
It should be on, Marg. He'll turn it on.
Come on over here. Oh my God. Okay, like I was saying, I'm not a PSW. I am in program. I do activities. But when we have someone passed away, and then the little lady down the corner running, just gotta take a breather. Find out just that 2 minutes, all it takes. You don't need to spend 5-10 minutes, just 2 minutes, and say, okay, Mrs. Smith, what can I help you with? Can we just sit for a second? Give her something to distract her. So you're gonna use distract therapy. Use that to distract the person. Then Paul's gonna come and say, da-da-da-da-da-da-da. Okay, Paul, hey, let's go sit in the corner for a bit. What can I assist you with? Give him something else. You're gonna know what that person like already. So if Paul likes to read a book or even look at a car, you're gonna say, hey, Paul, here's your car, sit for a bit. That's how you're gonna look at each person individually and say, hey, I can give you a minute, I can give you 2 minutes. That 2 minutes that you spend is what actually will benefit, not that 5 minutes. It takes longer. You say 5 minutes, I don't have the time. Actually, you're creating more problem for yourself.
That's right.
By giving them that 2 minutes, it really helps. And like I said, I'm sorry, I'm not a PSW, but I see what you guys do every single day, and I assist my PSW at work when they need help. You gotta able to take the cap off and define what really matters. It's the resident that matters, not you at that time. Thanks.
Exactly. We are a team. That's right. We are a team. And we really do have to work together as a team, everybody.
What is your name, Marg? I want to thank Marg very much for that research that you did, because that is who we are and what we do. Is anybody out there listening? Is anybody out there know our pain? They don't know our pain. So I wish, because that will be a great loss, if that paper just stay on the table. But I want the voice of what you research to be heard to the east, to the west, to the north, and to the south, to Parliament, to the government out there, and to the homes. I want them to know, because it hurt deep inside when you know, and to the ministry who make laws and they don't know, they don't wear the shoes that we wear. How could you do 9 and 10 people and give them all that you want to give them in a 1 hour and a half? I'm not blaming the home for that, but the ministry is giving the order and they don't know whatever. I have residents who tell me deep down things that I cannot talk, and they say, could I trust you? And I said, yes. These people become our family. They become they depend upon us. When you walk in the room and they say to you, I'm glad to see you today, it is more than somebody giving me $1 million when I finish at the end. And when you have management that does not respect you and respect the work that you do, it pains within. But I want to say, thank God for where I am now. It has changed a great deal. We have management now that listen and respect us. Maybe not all, but we are getting there. We are getting there. And I have a good charge nurse. But I want this letter to go to the government, that they can hear what we are doing, because we work so hard and they don't even want to give us a raise.
I feel like someone should say amen.
And one more thing, sorry, I promise you I won't be talking again. I'll keep it inside. One more thing,
I will need to know that we can come together, and in every long-term care facility we have a system set up that when we are going through any pain, that something is in place there to help us go through what we are going through. Thank you.
So I'll do my part and get that letter out. Maybe the blogger can get the letter out. But you do your part too. You're already doing it. So you're going to champion these changes in your home, and there should be dozens of you who feel the same way.
What does the PSW Association? Thank you, everyone. You know, in giving care, it's all about change. PSW, we are here saying that, oh, the work we are doing, they are not recognizing or whatever. Everybody is working together. Come to the nursing home. It's so stressful. Now, the RPN said that she don't want at the end of the shift, PSW is coming to tell her that, oh, 10 o'clock, Mrs. Adams is shaking. What do you want me to tell you? I come to work, Miss Adams is good. Dinner, she's good. Bedtime, she's good. When you're going to do your final round, you notice that she's not feeling good. What are you going to do? I have to pass the report to her. One thing is that some of the RPM, some of them, or RN or RPM, they don't want you to give them any report. They're afraid of documentation. They don't want that. They understand me. That is the thing, you know. We have to, excuse me, we have to be open to know what is happening actually. I know a home I'm working. I know an RPN that she doesn't want anybody to tell her anything. She wants her own job to be perfect and your own to be wrong. I pray, I research what is happening. Then they keep on telling me this is what she wants. If you don't want me to put Adams in bed before your medication, say that I want Miss Adam to sit up till 8 o'clock or 10 o'clock so that you will finish medication. You don't want to clean her mouth. It's not when the woman goes to bed, say, why did you put in bed? No, say your reason. It's all about communication. I communicate with you well. You tell me what you want. I want to do my job where it's going to be good for me. But the resident will go and tell me, good night, I would like to see you tomorrow. You RPN, you want to finish your work to pass over to the next thing. Communicate. This is how I want it. This is what I want. Don't go and write a report. Put somebody down because you don't like that person. Don't tell me to leave a residency bed from 3 p.m. I come to work till 10 o'clock because you want to finish everything. You don't want maybe when the person is going to bed get agitated. You don't want to do any paperwork. You don't want to call the family and stuff like that. Let's work together as a team. RPN is doing good work. PSW is doing good work. In all about care, we have to do our best. Everybody is doing good, but let's communicate. That is the thing I want to pass to everybody.
Okay. Okay. Did you click it off? No? Okay.
There it is. It's delightful to hear this this energy, and so what I'm wondering about, Jackie, if you could, what I'm hoping PSWs change into, and I think I hear it starting today, is not PSWs but PSWs, which are professional personal support workers. And so I would like you, Jackie, if you could talk a little bit about the association, because it would be nice to gather some of the strength here and begin to create a voice of professional personal support workers.
Exactly. You know, we are a very large body of people who have a lot to say, obviously. There's a lot of things that aren't right out there, and it's up to every single one of us to try and make it better. And just like the lady back there, just starting something in your home. Take something that isn't right. It might be pulling aside an RPN and explaining to them how you're feeling and what works better, or if there needs to be something changed in that resident's care plan, let's do it. But let's do it together. Let's talk. Let's not be upset with each other. Blame each other. We have to come together and work together. That is what's important. And like I said, because we're such a large body of people, a lot of different personalities, but we can do it, and we do it for our residents. Would you be able to?
Well, is there sponsors members is the OPSWA. Is somebody here from there? Okay.
Oh, good.
All right. Come on down. If you can. Or I'll try and meet you halfway. What is your role?
Basically, I'm with the Ontario Personal Support Workers Association. I'm one of the Eastern Network reps, and we are trying to basically help PSWs in their field to make sure that they, know their role, take accountability for their role, and to also help them with problems that they are having in nursing homes, home care, any facilities that you work at, basically. We have a lot of resources available to us. We have partners with the OLTCA and that kind of thing, so we can, help you in those areas and help you with things that you need to be getting addressed. We just had a meeting with the ministry this past week, so we are, getting in there as well, and hopefully we can make a difference and help you guys in your field and make a difference for not only our residents, but for you guys as well. Make it a little easier on everybody.
In my home, we did an education blitz with all the PSWs. It's called Palliative Care for Frontline Workers. And I understand it's not all over Ontario, but that is something that you can start with. Education is a huge thing. I don't know, I think we have something on our website too in regards to the Palliative Care for Frontline Workers education. So you could go to there and find out more about it. But it really helped with our home to make us, empowered us as to understanding exactly what we're doing, where we can go, and how we provide this care for our residents. It also talked about teamwork too. So it's a start. So I think it's almost time. I just had one more question that I really felt was an important question, and it was, how do you do all this with the time restraints, the working short, and the ratio of PSWs to our residents? How do we do it? Teamwork. Yeah. It is teamwork. And I know that we do the best we can, and every day it gets better. With more things that we're learning and understanding, it is getting better. And just seeing all you guys out here, it's incredible. Okay, so I think that was it for me.
Okay, we're going to move to lunch. So there was the researcher from U of T wanted to mention, that. Okay, if you haven't signed your certificate, you can sign your certificate over the lunch hour. What was her name again? It's Rebecca Harris. This lady wants to meet you. Rebecca? So lunch is out there. We have half an hour for lunch, so it's 10 after 12. We'll reconvene at 20 minutes to 1.